Enigmatic Mysteries of Consciousness and Metaphysics. A famous neurologist and psychiatrist, Giulio Tonini, defines consciousness as the extent of control it exercises on itself and its environment with feelings, emotions, and communication, and is distinct from intelligence. It is formless, indivisible, singular, irreducible beyond time and space, unimaginable, imperceivable, the source of imagination and conceptualization. The brain is the relational link between thought, actions, and ideas, the altered form of consciousness. Befitting characteristics of Abrahamic gods, a theory of biocentrism asserts that consciousness and life are the creator of the universe. Erwin Schrödinger posits that metaphysics precedes physics. Consciousness is the most important, interesting, complicated, and exhaustive topic I have embarked on, and I try to keep it as simple as possible for the readers, avoiding the technical terms and cumbersome details of a panoply of theories. For the sake of conciseness of this article, only the most relevant theories/points are discussed. A few terms inevitable for understanding the discussion have been mentioned and explained. A lump of matter without consciousness would be non-existent, so would be anything else. Neither you nor me, neither universe nor God would exist. The problem of consciousness is one of the oldest and the hardest in philosophy. What is the world made of? How did it get here? Who or what am I? What is the point of it all? It is especially related to the mind-body problem, e.g. what is the relationship between the physical and the mental world? Panpsychism postulates that everything in the universe has consciousness or mental properties. Consciousness is not something that happens to us but what we do, being aware and sometimes even being unaware. Kind of inattentional blindness. It is not an epiphenomenon but a working part of the cognitive system. There must be a conversion zone in the visual system where the contents of the consciousness emerge. Dehanin. Knowing is consciousness. God is all-encompassing superintelligence, whereas human consciousness is its fractional endowment, and it can sustain without the brain or body casing because it does not intrinsically belong to it. Protozoans act like fish without a brain. Starfish navigates hurdles without a nervous system. Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose postulate that consciousness does not die but blends into cosmic consciousness. Biocentrism posits that life and consciousness, theologically speaking, God and His will created the universe and not vice versa, dismissing naturalism. It also postulates that consciousness may live indefinitely, moving from one dimension, universe, to another. Quantum immortality. However, soul/spirit/self is inevitable for intentionality and to experience feelings and sensations. The self is, though, not a physical entity but both real and identifiable reality. Quran in 1045 alludes to the fact that in the hereafter, the soul will be united with a body recognizable by others. Quran 456 also talks about the repeated replacement of the human skin to feel the pain. Self is a powerful mean-plex, but its processes, conscious awareness, give rise to the sense of free will, selfishness, fear, disappointment, greed, and many more human failings. The self cannot be annihilated but trained and subdued because consciousness is contingent on it. Islamic theology. Existence is the identification of the self rooted in the physical body. It is pertinent to mention here that some other entities are equally unfathomable, such as the soul, the origin of life from inanimate, prebiotic, matter, free will, and self. Douglas Hofstadter, a Pulitzer Prize winner scientist, postulates that the self is born in systems capable of modeling the world and themselves while the brain models itself as a processing agent. The enduring question, however, remains. How does a collection of non-living, prebiotic, substances reaching a certain threshold of biochemical complexity transform into a living organism? Concerning the soul, it has been categorically mentioned in Quran that it is the decree of the Creator. We are told, in a sense, not to try to figure it out as it is beyond your pale, and you will never succeed. I imagine the same situation is with consciousness, self, and how and when life originated from inanimate matter. Soul, Self, awareness, and knowledge are contingent on consciousness for their manifestation and work in conjunction with it. Nothing would exist in the absence of consciousness. Free will and consciousness also inevitably go hand in glove. Despite being optimistic about Roger Penrose, an exceptionally intuitive and intelligent mathematician, physicist, and philosopher's non-traditional, a mixture of material and non-material, approach to consciousness. He may not succeed as to when and where in the brain it emerges. He may also never be able to find out where it comes from, if not from its creator God. Human cognition is infamously limited in comprehending comprehensive views and more adept at breaking down subjects into segments. Quran alludes to this reality saying, "The soul is by command of my Lord, and of knowledge yet have been given but little." Q. 17:85. Application of this verse in a generic sense would also include soul, consciousness, and origin of life. David Hume in his bundle Theory of Human Nature 1739, denies the reality of self and says that we are nothing but a bundle of perceptions succeeding each other inconceivably fast and are in perpetual flux. Memory gives them continuity, making it a personal identity. There is nothing like self. Thomas Reid makes self permanent by presenting his ego theory. He says, "I am not a thought, perception, action, or feeling but something that thinks, suffers, and acts. Feelings can come and go, the self remains and is permanent." Edwin Schrodinger's inquiry into mind and matter was metaphysical and religious, as he believed that metaphysics precedes physics. Metaphysics is beyond the application of deduction but inherently speculative. One speculative presumption is that it is empirically unverifiable and involves the existence of an external world independent of the mind. Another speculative presumption pertains to the existence of a distinct mind. He asserted that empirical evidence for these claims is unattainable. Other spiritualists like Amit Goswami, a nuclear physicist, say that creative evolution is the theory in which consciousness is the ground of all beings. Deepak Chopra says, "The notion of consciousness is as fundamental as a field phenomenon that precedes the quantum field as the origin field of the universe." It seems like they are echoing Erwin Schrödinger's assertion. Stuart Hainroth, an American anesthesiologist, says, "Consciousness emerges from quantum coherence in the microtubules found all over the body." Roger Penrose suggests that the phenomenon of consciousness is foreign to our current physical picture and alters the very underpinnings of our philosophical viewpoint about the nature of reality. He argues that microtubules rather than neurons may be the basic units of the brain and that it is within them that the collective quantum effects necessary for consciousness reside. He also suggests that there is something in the conscious activity of the brain that transcends computation, and for which there is no explanation in terms of present-day science. How does our conscious awareness of happiness, pain, love, aesthetic sensibility, will, understanding, etc. fit into such a computational picture? Computations are the pieces of abstract mathematics divorced from any association with a particular material body. Therefore, the non-computability would have to come from some non-computable physical theory still undiscovered whose implications are essential ingredients of conscious brain action. Does it make sense to talk about such things in scientific terms at all? Or is science in no way competent to address issues relating to the human consciousness, including understanding, awareness, the origin of life, and soul as well? The point of view expressed that awareness cannot be explained through physical, computational, or any other scientific terms, negates the physicalist position altogether and regards the mind as something that is entirely inexplicable in scientific terms, is the viewpoint of the mystic, and at least some ingredient of viewpoint D, above, seems to be involved in the acceptance of religious doctrine. Roger Penrose rejects it. In one of the extreme views, the universe itself is considered, in effect, to be a gigantic computer, and appropriate sub-computations that this computer performs will evoke the feelings of awareness that constitute our conscious minds. Quran seems to allude to this notion by induction of mathematical laws in the functioning of the universe by Allah, the mathematician, impliedly rejecting the notion that the universe is the source of consciousness. The physical world, life, soul, and consciousness emerged through the process of objectivation or schematic. Those can be conceptualized and studied. The concept of superconsciousness permeating the universe, giving it a purpose, can be described by a. religious people by giving it a divine character. b. panpsychists may claim that consciousness instilled natural laws at the beginning of the universe to optimize its value. c. materialists, atheists, may assert that no meticulous calibration, fine-tuning, or decision-maker is necessary and that one, such as ours, of the multiverses, within ample time conducive to the evolution of intellect and consciousness, is likely to emerge. A naturalist view. Orchestra theory, however, posits that consciousness originates in neurons at the quantum level and not in microtubules. Rodolfo Elena suggests that consciousness is the result of thalamocortical activity. Dynamic core hypothesis, integrated info theory. Thalamocortical loops produce a high level of dynamic complexity that creates consciousness, integration of information. It is over and above, localized in different parts, integration. Confabulation. With two hemispheres connected, we do not know the neuronal bases of our actions, activities, and environmental influences, so we make sense in the light of our desires, beliefs, opinions, and reasons. Consciousness is a force of will that directs attention and shapes human conscious experience. The combination of perception, attention, consciousness, and unconsciousness converges into intuition and creativity. Intuition consists of three parts. 1. Cognitive process, brain extracts info. 2. Social skill or impression articulation. 3. Emotions, reason cannot operate without emotions. Creativity might also entail the explicit and intuitive skills coming together. When decisions take shape in microtubules, experiences happen, awareness of the self, and the exercise of free will happen. Coran instead asserts that the heart is the seat of inspiration, knowledge, and decision-making processed by the brain and manifested through actions. Neuronal signals travel at the speed of 100 milliseconds, whereas consciousness takes 1/2 second to emerge after the activity stimulation. Stuart Hameroth and Penrose differ and admit that quantum events indicate the presence of an invisible agency. I suppose they are alluding to superconsciousness producing intelligent activity at the interface where space and time emerge. An agency may occur in the following ways. When an unexpected but positive event/thing occurs as a surprise. A heightened sense of agency occurs. When a negative, or painful, unexpected event/thing occurs as a nasty surprise. A reduced sense of agency felt. When an anticipated, positive or negative, event/thing occurs as no surprise. A sense of agency, though active, becomes lost/absent. In the 20th century, people used this term, consciousness, to express their experiences or awareness. It is, however, no longer restricted to the mind since we have gained much knowledge about the functioning of the brain. This knowledge should have clarified the nature and causes of conscious awareness, but it failed to do so, and consciousness remains a mystery. The thalamus possibly is the consciousness switch. There can be gradual shrinking, dimming, or nonlinear collapse of the consciousness. Corticothalamic connectivity and functioning synapses. Philosophers over millennia have struggled with two versions of the problem of consciousness and proposed solutions through monist and dualist, kind of stuff, theories. The best example of dualism is Descartes' statement, "I think therefore I am," called Descartes dualism. According to Reagan, consciousness is not a matter of I think, but I can, therefore, I am. Dualism represents mind and body or mind and matter. Monists claim that the world consists of one primal stuff or material. All things go back to their source that is distinct from them. Also, all concrete things fall under one highest substance, nature or God. They try to avoid dualism using two fundamental ideas, the mental and physical world. For example, a pen does not exist but only its perception. It is untenable, therefore, George Berkeley replaced the material object, pen, with a sensation in mind. A physical phenomenon. There have been innumerable theories presented on the topic of consciousness that are certainly out of the scope of this piece. It means there can be no mental difference without some physical difference. Any difference in consciousness must be contingent on a difference in the brain, material or physical, but its reverse will not happen. Mind is the designer's language spoken through the working of the brain, the physical machine. Claxton self is not the brain but what it does. Feinberg. Understanding is the outcome of matter, energy, physical or phenomenal experience. Insight is imagining something different that may be either wrong or right. Sometimes even self-deception is termed an insight. Metzinger, 2009. Consciousness in Essentialism. Zombies doing things without consciousness makes consciousness superfluous, kind of epiphenomenon that exists but does nothing. Insertion of a chip in a zombie will make it conscious, functional, or intelligent at best. However, like humans, it cannot have independent thinking or feelings for other zombies. Ontogeny. When does consciousness arise? During the development of a zygote in a fetus? Or phylogeny. When during the evolution did it emerge? It is well known that voluntary motor actions precede RP, readiness potential, about a second or 800 milliseconds before actions occur. The urge to act appears far in advance, so the intention/decision should occur first or at the time of cerebral activity. Intention occurs 550 milliseconds before, and the will 200 milliseconds before the RP. A 500 milliseconds, 1/2 second, delay occurs in the sequence of physical events that leads to an action. Nevertheless, consciousness is not the cause of actions, substantiating the possibility that physical events are susceptible to external mental force at the micro-quantum level. God. In my opinion, super or higher consciousness as an external force, like the dark energy field that provides mass to the particles, is always present, exercising its will to allow volitional actions to proceed or veto them. Free will is the conclusion of competing ideas prompting an action. Fatalism. Since everything is predetermined, therefore, it is pointless to act otherwise. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic. Classic view of the deterministic universe, the state of the universe at any given time and the fundamental laws of classical physics have determined the back history and the forward evolution. Concept of now only, assuming space-time as a mental construct, rejects this notion. Quantum physics is more deterministic but lacks the knowledge and computational power that prevent scientists from knowing the present position and momentum of all the particles to explain. Yet, the superposition and wave function, the cat is dead or alive experiment, thereby throwing the determinism out of the window. Classical physics is deterministic, while quantum physics seems chaotic, uncertain, and fluid at best. World and nothingness. When we stop contemplating, exploiting, and manipulating the world or universe, it drops into nothingness, oblivion, like the light in the freezer upon closing its door. Most philosophers, psychologists, and neurologists, despite being non-believers in free will, Sue Blackmore 2005, often claim that they, to live a happy and healthy life, separate their intellectual understanding from practical life as believers in free will. It will be pertinent to talk about Darwinian doubts, as many claim that consciousness is also the product of human evolution. When Charles Darwin finished The Origin of Species, he thought that he had explained every clue but one. Darwin knew the Cambrian explosion. Many animals suddenly appeared in the fossil record without apparent ancestors in earlier layers of rocks. Scientists have learned what it takes to construct an animal, the central important biological information stored in DNA and elsewhere in cells, to build animal forms. Therefore, the claim of consciousness in humans through evolution is not correct. Natural selection. Apart from the survival of the fittest, there are several other possible modes whereby the process can be triggered, such as mutation, genetic drift, gene flow, sexual selection, and the layers of self-organization from the molecular level upward, showing how designs appear naturally without a plan or designer. Claxton, Baptist Lamech adds instinct to adapt and inheritance from prior. Omitted here is the thought, where does this capacity come from? And the neglect of the recent discoveries of irreducible complexity found at the microbial level clearly pointing to a designer. Amit Goswami, Deepak Chopra, and Tansey claim that Darwin was wrong because superconsciousness, not energy or matter, directs evolution and allows humans to escape the forces of natural selection that other species are bound by. Evolution is enacted, directed and controlled, from above by a cosmic spiritual field. Human genes split from their presumed lineage. Orangutans, 12 to 16 million years ago. Gorillas, 8 to 10 million years ago. Chimpanzees, 5 to 7 million years ago. Maybe this is why Quran alludes to this fact by saying, "We chose Adam." Q333, God then selected Adam as the progenitor of a new race and the precursor of a new civilization and taught Adam all the names. Q231, Adam was the first conscious being from the existing humanoids. Primary consciousness is an ability to integrate perceptual and motor events with memory to create awareness of our surroundings. Secondary higher order consciousness is an ability of self-conscious connecting past, present, and future, a binary phenomenon. Most likely a mental construct, as chronological space and time are spatial and created phenomena while nonlinear time is existent by default. Interoception. Interoception is the process by which the nervous system senses, interprets, and integrates signals from within the body. It is an ability to be aware of internal sensations such as the heart rate, breathing, hunger, fullness, temperature, pain, emotion, and sensations. Interoception is also presumed, as an additional sense critical to understanding how we feel moment to moment. Signal from cardio, lungs, gut, bladder, kidneys, etc. to the brain. Exteroception. Perception of stimuli originating from outside the body, such as visual, acoustic, or tactile stimuli, in the brain. For consciousness, more complex neural hierarchies are active to create isomorphic representation which maps features directly from the outside world onto the sensory system. Integration. It is the integration of interoceptive and exteroceptive information within the hippocampus, a computational study. Machiavellian hypothesis. The need for social intelligence, deception, manipulation, cunningness, etc. compelled the brain size to increase in primates. Animal deception is genetic, whereas that of the human is adaptive, learned, or acquired. Consciousness is myself of selves, that is, everything, yet nothing at all. What is it? Where did it come from? James 1976. Suppose it happened 520 to 560 million years ago during the Cambrian explosion. In the light of Quran and belief in God, I believe that superconsciousness was omnipresent, and a fraction of it endowed to the creation, animate and inanimate commensurate with their state at the time. It increased over time commensurate awareness and complexity of life and its sophistication panpsychism. A child in the womb becomes conscious after 40 weeks, and the conscious awareness keeps increasing with the stages and requirements of life. A child born recently is more intelligent than a child born a few decades ago. We not only have awareness but awareness of awareness. There are four extreme yet reasonable viewpoints about consciousness, which will shape the preceding discussion. A thinking is computation. In particular, feelings of conscious awareness are evoked merely by the conducting appropriate computations. The awareness is a feature of the brain's physical action. Any physical action can be simulated computationally, but computational simulation cannot, by itself, evoke awareness. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic. See, appropriate physical action of the brain evokes awareness, but physical action cannot be properly simulated computationally. The awareness cannot be explained by physical, computational, or any equivalent scientific terms. According to yet another viewpoint, like a combination of A and D or B and D, The brain's action is indeed that of a computer, that is of such marvelous complexity that its imitation is beyond the wit of man and science, being necessarily a divine creation of God, the best programmer in the business. The term mentalist, not physicalist, would be appropriate here, for mental qualities are real things and not just epiphenomenon. What do the viewpoints A, B, C, and D, above, tell us about the state of the human brain and the future of this planet? According to A, programmed computers will reach beyond all human capabilities. Its proponents have given varied time scales from centuries to a mere 3 to 4 decades for transferring our mind programs into the shining metallic, or plastic, bodies of the robots of our choice, thereby obtaining for ourselves a form of immortality. Moravec 1988, 1994. It seems we would have to resign ourselves to the prospect of a planet ultimately ruled by insentient machines, computer-controlled robots. According to B, despite its common-sensical disposition, it offers the most pessimistic view of the future of our planet. According to C and D, however, programmed computers or computer-controlled robots shall always be subservient to humans, no matter how far they progress in speed, capacity, and logical design. Viewpoint C, however, is open regarding future scientific developments that might lead to the construction of non-computer devices that we do not have now, based upon the very non-computable physical action that C demands must underlie our own conscious thought processes, devices that could achieve actual intelligence and awareness. It will, perhaps, be these devices, rather than computers, that will eventually race beyond all human capabilities. It is probable, but such speculation seems to be highly premature at present, since we lack almost all the scientific understanding that would be necessary, let alone any of the technological know-how. There are sound reasons for believing that understanding is unsimulable in any computational terms, neither with a top-down nor a bottom-up system or in any combination of the two. Simulation of human faculty of understanding, thus, must be achieved by some non-computational activity of the brain or mind. Natural selection or an act of God. According to Plato, mathematical concepts and truths inhabit their world, which is timeless and without any physical location. Kurt Gödel also believed that the mind's action is something beyond the action of the physical brain. Perhaps we should seriously consider the possibility that our intelligence might inevitably require some act or will of God, thus, cannot be explained merely through computer-controlled computational science. Mind, body, and physical laws. Our bodies and our minds are part of a universe that obeys, to an extraordinary accuracy, immensely subtle and broad-ranging mathematical laws, and our bodies and minds, also precisely constrained by these laws, have become an accepted part of the modern scientific viewpoint. Though bodies are subject to physical laws, the minds are allowed their own kind of freedom, which is unsettling. Minds can affect the bodies, however, the reverse is not possible. This particular nature of freedom allowed must be an inevitable ingredient of those very physical laws. Whatever it is that controls or describes the mind, it must indeed be an integral part of the same grand scheme that governs all the material attributes of our universe. It raises two pertinent questions. 1. Why does the phenomenon of consciousness occur only in, or in relation to, brains? Maybe subtle and complex organization of the brain too. How come seemingly such an important, putatively, non-computational ingredient has escaped the notice of physicists/scientists? We must indeed expect that vestiges of such non-computability should also be present, at some indiscernible level, in inanimate matter. The role of classical and quantum physics played in the function of the brain. The conventional viewpoint is understood essentially in terms of classical physics, where nerve signals are an on and off phenomenon without superpositioning of quantum physics. While admittedly, at the underlying level, quantum effects are at play. Also, the neuronal transmission of signals across the synaptic cleft is quantum mechanical. In biology, there is no compulsion for it to opt out of the classical framework for the physical functioning of the brain. I cannot believe a situation like this can be close to the truth. To have an external mind stuff that itself is not subject to physical laws is taking us outside anything that could be called a scientific explanation. There is, however, no escape from having to probe more profoundly into the quantum coherence occurring in microtubules to reach the truth about the consciousness that lies at the roots of nature. Roger Penrose. Is there any direct evidence that the phenomenon of consciousness is related to the action of the cytoskeleton and microtubules in particular? Indeed, there is such evidence. General anesthetics, particularly, turn consciousness off by affecting the cytoskeleton, reversible once their effects wear off. This process most likely holds the key to solving the hard problem of consciousness once and for all. Roger Penrose. Mr. Roger Penrose. In my opinion, you are looking in the wrong place. The brain is the processor, neither the receiver nor the originator. Explore the heart instead, it may or may not be the generator of the consciousness. You might, nevertheless, reach somewhere. In 33:5, the Quran states, there is no fault in you if you make mistakes, but only in what your heart premeditates. In 22:46, Quran states, so, have they not traveled through the earth and have hearts by which to reason and ears by which to hear? Because, indeed, it is not eyes that are blinded, but blinded are the hearts which are within the breasts. Comment /like /share /follow and subscribe. Shakir Mumtaz. Author, thinker, analyst. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic.